Hello, this is saxophonist Antonio Parker, and this is A Conversation in Jazz, where we are promoting jazz through telling the stories. Our guest today is the wonderful trombonist, educator, composer, arranger, and band leader, the one and only Mr. Bobby Felder. We ask you to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. Hit the bell icon so we can let you know when we are posting another video or going live. We also ask you to donate to our Cash App in order to support the channel and help us to produce future videos. Our Cash App is $Jazzology101. That's $Jazzology101. Enjoy the video. Hi, I'm saxophonist Antonio Parker, and this is A Conversation in Jazz. Our guest today is an institution here in the DMV. He is a trombonist, educator, composer, arranger, and band leader. He has performed or collaborated with some of the finest musicians, including the great Keita Betts, Charlie Byrd, Buck Hill, Calvin Jones, and Shirley Horn, to name a few. Please welcome the one and only Mr. Bobby Felder.
Yeah.
How you doing, Bobby?
Glad to be here.
Oh man, we glad to have you. So this is called A Conversation in Jazz.
Right.
And so we basically, what we do here is we get to know the story behind the story.
Right.
So you have a story, and I've been reading some of your bio, and you have a story that a lot of people don't know. We know you as a musician, but we want to learn how you got to this point. So we're going to ask you some questions about that.
No problem.
Okay.
No problem.
So, you are known as Bobby Felder, but I've learned that your birth name is Robert Nicholas Felder.
Right.
So we're going to call you Bobby.
Okay, no problem. That's what everybody called me.
Yes, sir. So my first question is, who is Bobby Felder?
Well, I'm just a natural musician and born in Tampa, Florida, and came to Washington through the member of the Air Force Band.
Okay.
And that when I was discharged from the Air Force Band, I stayed in Washington.
Yeah.
So that's where I am.
All right.
I've been here for a whole lot of years.
Yeah. So, now I just wonder, I've been reading your bio, man. You've done a lot of things, man. What is this musical journey, like in your life, what has this journey been like for you?
Oh, wow. I got a whole lot of segments I could start. I started off as a junior high school teacher in Tampa, Florida, when I graduated from Fisk University in Nashville, Tennessee. And then I was drafted into the Marines, and through some contact of mine, I didn't want, because all my friends who were going to the Marines was doing the Korean War, and I didn't want to get involved in that. So I was able, through some contact, to switch to the Air Force.
Gotcha.
Went to San Antonio, Texas, and had my basic training. And the band school is also in San Antonio, Lackland Air Force Base.
Yeah.
And so when I did my basic training, I went over to the band school, and that's when I started. Well, I'd always done arrangements for different bands, and a lot of bands would give me CDs and cassettes and all, and I could copy the songs.
Wow.
I could write them, and they would sound just like the record would sound, you know.
So you had
so my forte all my life has really been arranging.
Okay.
You know. So when I got to the Air Force Band, they had a big band that would rehearse every afternoon, and it was like an 18-piece dance band. And I did an arrangement. I'll never forget. I did an arrangement on the song "In My Solitude," Duke Ellington song.
Yep.
And I did it with the trombone solo. So I was rehearsing the band one afternoon, and in walked the warrant officer who was in charge of the band school, and another captain, Captain Gall, who was from Washington, D.C. And the Air Force ceremonial band that I eventually came to that was on tour. And they were at Lackland Air Force Base.
Wow.
So he and one officer, Allie, were friends, so he just came over to see him. And they walked in, and I stopped the band. They said, "No, fella, keep playing." So the two officers stood in the back and watched me rehearse the band. And the next morning, I got a call from the warrant officer to report to his office at 9 o'clock.
Wow.
And he wanted to talk to me. And you know, when you in and go to the service, you wonder where they're going to send you. You know, I didn't want to go to Alaska somewhere. You know?
Yeah.
So he called me in, and at that time I had never, because when I went to the Air Force, I caught the train from Tampa, Florida.
Okay.
I had never been on an airplane.
Wow.
And so he teased me a lot. I sat down, and he said, "Felder," he said, "Do you like to fly?" I said, "Yeah." I said, "I'm in the Air Force. Of course I love to fly." And so he teased me a while. He said, "How would you like to go to Washington, D.C. with the Air Force Band as an arranger?"
Wow.
And I said, "Oh man, you got to be kidding me." You know? Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And
Yeah,
so he said, "I'm gonna give you a 10-day delay en route. You can go back to Tampa and report to Lackland Air Force Base in Washington, D.C. in 10 days." You know?
Wow.
Caught the train back to Tampa, and then my first airplane ride was from Tampa to Washington.
Okay.
For the Air Force Band. And so that's how I got to D.C.
Wow. So let's go back. We're going to get all the way. We're going to go back to the beginning. Okay. So, you say you're from Tampa, Florida. You were born in Tampa, Florida.
Yeah. That's my home.
Yeah. What was it like growing up in Tampa, Florida, when you were coming up?
Oh, it was, well, you know, it was. I went through the whole racial thing, prejudice. Everything
Really?
was prejudice, you know.
Wow.
And
Was there a black community?
oh, well, yeah, very close knit community.
So were you able?
Great black musicians, great black bands, and all. I went through the segregated thing, you know, quite a bit for the schools and everything.
So you lived in a segregated.
Yeah, I lived in a black.
What was that
neighborhood.
like? What was that like? Just in the black community? Because I hear stories that at some place you can have your door open and you had to worry about.
Well, we didn't have. There was no crime at all, and black. Everybody was friends. You knew everybody. You know, everybody. We all got together and all, and all the musicians. Tampa had some very, very good black musicians, and
so you didn't have to worry about getting knocked over the head.
oh no. And I started playing trombone in junior high school, and I was in the high school band, and when I was in the high school band, I was also played with one of the local bands. Played trombone and did all the arranging for one of the local bands while I was in high school. So I've been doing this for a long time.
Wow. Did you have siblings?
Well, I was son, yeah.
No, siblings, like brothers and sisters.
Oh, well, yeah. Now that's the whole story itself. I am. There are 12 of us.
12?
I had 11 brothers and sisters.
Wow.
I was the youngest.
You the baby?
Yeah, I was the baby. So everything was handed down to me.
Now, is that a good thing or bad thing?
Well, that's how I started in the music, because someone gave my brother, who was just above me, a trombone. It was an old silver trombone with no case. You just carried the slide and the bell around in your hand. and
Wow.
and he didn't want to play it, so because he was in athletics, you know, he was a football player. So it was just handed down to me.
Wow. So were you and your siblings close?
Oh yeah.
Wow.
All of my brothers and sisters were very, very close. There were 8 boys and four girls.
Wow.
You know, and I was.
Did y'all have fun?
Yeah. Oh wow. It was everything was all family. You know, my mother was she held us together real close and everything.
Yeah. So were you spoiled?
Very much. They all spoiled me. You know, matter of fact, one of my brothers, there were only 2 of us that went to college. One of my brothers went to Tuskegee, and but of the 12 of us, I'm the only one living now.
Wow.
So I've been to a lot of funerals.
Yeah,
you know.
yeah,
So.
yeah. Wow.
So all 11 of it passed, and I'm the last one, you know,
Wow.
just left, you know.
So you must have a bunch of nephews and nieces.
Oh wow, Lord, it was still in Florida.
Yeah, yeah.
I built a home down in Florida, and I used to go down 3 or 4 times a year. And while I was teaching school up here, and so I would have the summers free, and I would spend my summers in Florida. You know, and I eventually sold that about 5 years ago. I sold the house. You know.
So do you come from a musical family, or are you the only musician in the family? Were you the only musician in the
I
family?
was the only out of all 12. I was the only musician.
Wow.
Yeah, the only musician. Yeah.
That's something.
Yeah.
And trombone, was that your first musical instrument?
Yeah, yeah.
So you didn't sing or anything?
No.
Wow.
No. I was forced to sing when I went to college as a music major at Fisk University. They had a choir that was traveled all over the country and was well known. And the choir performed every Sunday for church every Sunday on campus.
Yeah.
And as a requirement, as a music major, you have to sing in the choir for at least a year. So my senior year, I sang in the choir. That's the only singing I've ever done, you know.
So when did you learn? Like, when did you get the bug, the music bug? Like, when, like, Dad, I want to do this. You know.
Well, that's a good question. I always loved music as far as I can remember, you know. And I just picked it up, and I picked the trombone up so fast, and one thing just led into another.
Gotcha.
And then one of the bands picked me up down there as a trombone player with one of the local bands, dance bands, while I was in high school.
Wow.
And that's when I started, you know, doing some arranging, and found out that I could do that pretty well, you know.
Wow.
Yeah.
So did music come easy to you?
Yeah, very, very much so.
Wow.
And one of the reasons I went to Fisk University was because one of the legends, John Work, was a legend in music who's written spirituals all over the world. He was well known. He was a professor in the music department. I wanted to study with him.
Wow.
And he taught me, you know,
Yeah.
all my chordal structure.
That was in college, right?
Yeah.
So, like, before college, were you self-taught, or did you study formally?
No, I never. I picked everything on my own. I never
Really?
had.
Wow.
I never had a formal lesson on trombone. Nothing.
So how'd you learn?
I didn't get a formal lesson on trombone until I was getting my master's degree at Catholic University.
Really?
And you have to. John Marcellus, who was first trombone player with the National Symphony Orchestra here, was the trombone teacher at Catholic University. And in order to get your master's degree, you had to take applied music for 1 year. And so I took trombone lessons from him, you know.
So did you play by ear? How'd you learn how to read music?
Well, Professor Rodriguez that was in my public schools was very, very good teacher, and he taught all of us how to read pretty well.
Oh, so you learned
band.
You were in the bands in school?
Yeah, concert band, marching band, and all. Yeah, but the concert band, we played some pretty heavy stuff, and that's when I got started in reading quite a bit.
Now, do you remember when you first got exposed to jazz?
Oh wow. Well, back in those days, my young days, almost all the music that the musicians played, the bands played, was leaned towards jazz, because a lot of the dances and all that the people did, they danced a lot to jazz music.
Wow.
You know, and not the rhythm and blues like we have now. Eventually it evolved into that, but as a high school trombone player with one of the local dance bands, half of our repertoire was jazz.
Oh wow.
And when we play dances, and people would, you know, what do you call it, jitterbug and dance and all that. Yeah.
Did you have some people that influenced you? Like, you have any major influences,
Yeah.
musical influences?
Well, I would say Mike Rodriguez, who's an excellent pianist and jazz pianist and all. He took to me quite a bit with the band, you know. The concert band and all. I was like concert master with the concert band and all, and he leaned on me quite a bit, and I leaned on him quite. I learned quite a bit from him.
Okay.
And that's how I really got into jazz, really through him. You know.
So is there like a jazz trombonist that you really was checking out coming up?
Well, trombone player that I just fell in love with was a close friend of mine. When I went to Fisk University, Nashville, Tennessee, there's another large black institution in Nashville was Tennessee State University. And Tennessee State University had a huge music program, big 300-piece marching band, and
Wow.
and but Tennessee State had a dance band that was fantastic, and that's when they used to have the collegiate Downbeat magazine had the collegiate jazz band big band festivals.
Yeah.
And Tennessee State would almost win that every year. And one summer they went on tour, the band did, during summertime, and they needed another trombone player, so they asked me to go on tour with them, which I did. There were 3 trombone players, and the other 2 trombone players was Calvin Jones, who was at
Great
Tennessee
Calvin
State,
Jones, yeah.
and the other one that I admired, so Jimmy Cleveland.
Wow.
I don't know if you knew
Jimmy, no.
the jazz trombone player.
No, I didn't know.
Oh man, he went to New York and all and became very famous. He's passed now, but he was an excellent jazz trombonist.
Wow.
He influenced me quite a bit. So that's how I got to know Calvin Jones. That's my first.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
That's cool.
We met.
Yeah.
I was at Fisk and he was at Tennessee State.
Wow.
Yeah.
So, but during high school, were you gigging around?
Oh yeah. I gigged all through high school. I was with one of the top local dance band in Tampa, and we traveled all over the state mostly. I didn't go out of state, but we.
So you was making money?
Oh yeah. So I made enough money to pay my tuition for the whole first year.
Wow.
That I went to school because everybody that know me know I love to save money. You know. I'm also a businessman.
Yeah.
So I took my music as a business also. You know?
No doubt.
Yeah.
I'm trying to learn that aspect of it.
Yeah. No.
So I heard you also was in a band with the legendary Ray Charles. Were you?
Yeah. Well, Ray Charles. Well, matter of fact, the black musicians that would come to Tampa had usually stayed with in private homes mostly when they traveling band. And Ray Charles stayed with my mother.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And Ray Charles played in the band in Tampa. The band I was talking about, Ray Charles was the piano player for a short while. Yeah.
So did you know?
And then I went off to college, and
So did you know Ray personally? Did y'all talk and all that kind of thing?
yeah. Well, I knew him. He fairly well because I didn't get to play with him a long time because during the time he was there is when I was when I had to go off to Fisk University in Nashville.
Okay. Yeah. Wow. So how'd you get into? What got you into writing and arranging?
Well, I just tried it. I picked it up. Well, everybody's always said that I always had what you call a musician called a good ear.
You have perfect pitch?
Yeah, I
Okay.
had that, and I could hear something. You could record. I mean, back then you can play a note. I could tell you what.
Wow.
I could tell you whether it's B flat or C or what.
Wow.
Yeah. and I was able to do simple things, rhythm and blues things. The rhythm and blues things were very easy to do, and I could hear all the different horn parts,
Really?
and I'd write them down, and.
So you didn't study like theory and all that?
Well, that's when I went to Fisk University.
Okay.
Dr. Work was a theory specialist,
Mm-hmm.
and we got into my first year at Fisk. For 4 years, I was heavy into theory,
Okay.
and we had to write from a bass line and from a melodic line, and we had to do 4-part harmony. We had to do just.
Wow.
We had to do one every day. He would give us a line.
And what was his name, the teacher?
John Work.
John Work?
Yeah.
Wow.
WRK. And he would give us like a bass line, and we had to do 4-part harmony to it.
Okay.
A melodic line, and we had to do the soprano, alto, tenor, and bass parts to it. And every day we had to do this, and he would correct these papers and give it back to us next day with a red pencil. And when he would give these things back to us, the whole thing would be red. For him marking mistakes, mistakes and everything, but he's the one that really influenced me as far as my harmonic background was concerned.
Wow. What made you choose Fisk University?
Well, that was strange. There was a lady who was the librarian at my high school, who was a Fisk graduate, and her son was a student at Fisk at that time, and she is the one that told me about John Work and all.
Okay.
And she knew how much I was into music in high school, and it was because of her. She made all the contacts with me, and I would fit. I had a choice of going to Fisk or Florida A&M, because during that time, Cannonball and Nat and those were at Florida A&M at the same time.
Yeah. Wow.
And that's I got to know them real well, Cannonball and Nat.
Really?
Oh, very, very close friends of mine. When I finished Fisk, I went back to Tampa, and I only taught in Tampa for 1 year before I went into service. And the summer that I was off, I wanted to start on my master's degree, and I went to Florida A&M for that summer. And Nat and Cannonball was at Tallahassee there.
Really?
And yeah, they were playing on weekends at a club in Tallahassee.
Wow.
And I took I had my trombone with me, so I would go out on weekends and sit in with them.
Really?
Yeah, that's how I got to know them.
Wow.
So we became friends then, and then we got very, very close because when I got out of the service here, when I stayed here, that's when I decided to go to Catholic University to get my master's, and that's when I started with Charlie Bird and all.
Yeah.
But then back then on Rhode Island Avenue, they had at the Rhode Island Plaza, the big apartment building, they had a jazz club called the Spotlight Room, which was very, very popular.
Really?
Yeah, and they had full-time jazz. Like
Was this in the 70s? Was this in the 70s?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, 60s and 70s.
Wow. Yeah, 60s. Okay.
And they would bring. I put a jazz group in, and I was the house jazz group. It was trombone. I had trombone tenor. Me and Herschel McGinnis was tenor player, and rhythm section. And we were like the house band there. But like once or twice a month, they would bring a name band in. And one for a week, for a whole week. And 1 week they brought Cannonball and Nat in.
Wow.
And at the Rhode Island Plaza, I was living upstairs on the 7th floor. I had an apartment on the 7th floor.
Okay.
And so Cannonball, every time they came to watch, they stayed with me.
Really?
Yeah.
So did you get?
They stayed with me, and that was quite an experience because Cannonball was a good cook. Cannonball would do a lot of cooking, and what I remember about Cannonball and that was when in the apartment, their case was never closed.
Wow.
They had access to the trumpet,
Yeah.
cornet and that was playing, and alto sax. And all during the day, they just picked the horn up and play,
Wow.
All we'd be sitting down, talking to something, and they just having a conversation like we're having, and they would play things in between,
Wow.
They played the horns like around the clock.
Wow.
And that and Cannonball did, yeah. They were some great two great musicians.
What were they like as people?
Oh man, very, very friendly. Yeah. Cannonball liked this drink. He liked to drink Courvoisier. And he would keep a bottle of Courvoisier available to him at all times.
Really?
That's one thing I remembered about him. Yeah. But Nat and I remained, even after Cannonball passed, Nat and I remained good friends because Nat had a beautiful home in Lackland, Florida. So every summer that I would go home, I would spend time with him.
Wow, that's beautiful. Wow.
Yeah.
So, then going back to Fisk University, were you in the marching band there?
Well, we didn't have marching.
Y'all didn't have marching band?
No.
That's an HBCU, right?
Yeah, you're right.
And they had a marching band?
No,
Okay.
Well, Fisk was not a huge university.
Okay.
Because like when I was there were only like maybe 2,000 students.
Oh, okay.
Not like Tennessee State who had maybe 20 or 30,000 students.
This is a rhetorical question, though. Are you familiar with the Fisk Jubilee Singers?
Oh yeah. They were well known.
Yeah.
That's when they picked the group of the top vocal singers.
Yeah.
And they traveled quite a bit. They did a lot of traveling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Were they still around when you was that?
Oh yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Jubilee singers. Yeah.
Wow.
Just Jubilee singers. Yeah.
You mentioned that after Fisk, you graduated. Then you started a little teaching.
I taught for a year.
A year, and then you went.
Yeah.
Then you went in the military.
Yeah. That's when I was drafted in service.
Okay.
And I came to Bolling Air Force Base.
Okay.
I spent 4 years there.
Okay.
That was one of for my life experiences. That was one of the best experiences I've had because we traveled. We were like a ceremonial group, and we traveled all over the world.
Wow.
I got a chance to go to Africa, go to Europe. Almost every state. Cause we did like parades and a lot of parades. We played a lot of halftime football games and things like that.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now you said you were in the Air Force, or
Air Force.
The Air Force. Okay.
Yeah.
So you were drafted into the Korean.
Yeah, during the Korean War. Yeah.
During the Korean War. And you said I'm gonna get in this music thing.
Yeah. I was lucky to stay. I was lucky to stay in the music. I was very, very lucky.
What was that?
I shot a rifle one time, an M1 rifle, and that was in basic training. We all had to go through that, and I got excellent. For the one time I shot a rifle, I had a rifle in my hand one time in 4 years.
I read that you were the main arranger for the Air Force.
Yeah, well, the group that I was with, well, that's another big story of mine. I've just been lucky everywhere where I've been with this music. When the captain brought me up here as an arranger, so in the barracks, the whole band stayed in one barracks together, and next to the barracks they had a big rehearsal room right out at Bolling Air Force Base. And the warrant officer, when I got here, Captain Gall rather, who was not a musician, he was just administrator of the group. The head of the music head of the group was a master sergeant, which is at that time was as high as you can go as as an enlisted person. Sig Norman, and he was a graduate of the University of Oklahoma, and Captain Gall called me in. I got there that evening. I caught a cab to Bolling. The next morning, he called me into his office, said, and that's where I was lucky. He said, "Felder, I'm going to give you a room in the barracks all by yourself, and I'm putting the piano in it for you." an upright piano. So I was the only one out, because all other guys, there were two to a room. I was the only one in the barracks had a room by myself.
Wow.
And he put an upright piano in the room for me. And he said, all I want you to do is start writing music, you know.
Wow.
So the concert, we had the marching group would practice for in the mornings, and then early evening, the concert group would practice, because whenever we travel, we did outdoor performances, marching performances, and then we would do an indoor concert. With all the servicemen, airmen, you know, came in, and so I listened to the group, and so I do most of my writing late at night. You know, I can start writing some music at 10, 11, 12 o'clock at night, and write until daylight. You know.
Wow. Yeah.
When it's quiet, you know.
You
and
lose
I
track
can
of time.
concentrate. Yeah.
Yeah.
I can concentrate. So and I still do that now. And I started writing some charts, and I had written 3 charts that I wrote for the concert band. And what happened? Two of the fellows, this trumpet player, George Faulkner and Ed Seifer, they liked me a lot. They became my best friends.
Wow.
They were 2 white fellas. Well, there were 80 of us in the band, and only 5 were black.
Wow.
Yeah, just 5 of us were black out of the 80, you know. And they became very close. They would come to my room and all, and they saw what I was doing. So I wrote. I never forget. I did an arrangement on Slaughter on 10th Avenue, and it was a pretty big arrangement. And they knew what I was doing. These 2 guys. So they, behind my back, went to Captain Gall and told him I had written some charts.
Wow.
So one day at the rehearsal, Sig Norman was rehearsing us and all. And Captain, just at the end of rehearsals, Captain Gall came in. He said, y'all don't leave now. Y'all stay here. He said, Felder, I understand you have some arrangements. Go get them and let's try them out.
Wow.
You know, yeah. So I went over to the barracks and got all the charts. Went back and passed, and he said, no, I want you to conduct it. You know. So the guys liked them so well.
Wow.
That on the next time we performed, all 3 of my charts were listed, you know, on the performance. You know.
Wow.
And that kept going, and I kept writing more and more. And after a while, it got to the point that almost everything that they were playing was things that I had written.
Wow.
So how lucky I am. Like, I moved up from, I was never, well, when you finish Lackland, basic training at Lackland, they give you 1 stripe. And the maximum stripes you can get is 6, which is Master Sergeant. I skipped over. Well, when I got to Bolling, they gave me another stripe as corporal. I was never a regular sergeant. I skipped from red sergeant right up to staff sergeant. I was like master sergeant like in a year and a half.
Wow.
But when I became master sergeant, the band was getting ready to go on tour again. At that time, we flew out of Bolling Air Force Base. You can't do it now, but I was telling people if I had $1 for every time I flew across that South Capitol Street Bridge, I'd be pretty good person. And we were going on tour, and as part of it, it was about a 6 or 7, 8-day tour. And out of this tour, one of the places was San Antonio, Texas. And I know we on that tour was Wichita, Kansas, the air base at Wichita, Kansas. But it was in the air base we toured. We played at Montgomery, Alabama, at the Air Force Base there. And what happened? Sig Norman was a real thin guy, a white guy, who conducted the band, and he had a physical problem. He had water on what they call water on his knees.
Okay.
His knees would swell up real big, and he couldn't hardly walk. So we were scheduled to fly out of Bolling Air Force that next morning for this tour. And the day before, they had to rush him to the hospital because his knees and all swole up real big. So 6 o'clock that morning, they woke me up. And they said, Felder, you're going to have to do the conducting on this tour.
Wow.
Yeah, so we went on that tour, and I conducted the band.
Wow.
During that time.
Now, were you nervous?
Well, it was kind of, because that was a first for me for the Air Force, and the guys liked the charge that I'd done so well. So we went on the tour, and I conducted the band, and from that part on, Sig never did conduct the band. I conducted the band right up until I was discharged,
Wow.
And that's when they moved me right up to Master Sergeant real fast,
Wow. So did somebody teach you how to conduct? Or you just...
Well, my experience came from when I was in high school with Mike Rodriguez and all. He was a fabulous conductor. But no, I never had no formal training in conducting.
Because I teach elementary school, right? And I just do my arms like that. So the principal can see me do it.
Right. Well, yeah. I never liked to conduct with a baton, but I like to conduct with my hands. You know? Yeah.
Wow. Now that's great.
So that's how and we went all over the world. We went to Africa. We toured places overseas where the people had never even seen a black person.
Wow.
And it's quite an experience. I went through it quite a bit.
Yeah. I can imagine.
Right.
So did you end up going to Catholic after you got out the military to get your master's?
Yeah. Well, when I left Bolling Air Force, when I was discharged.
Okay.
I went to. It's a strange thing that happened to me. I'll never forget. What's his name? Was head of the music department at Howard University back then.
Not Donald.
No, head of the music
Patterson?
department. No, was well known. My mind is blank now. But I went. I'll never forget. I put my uniform on, my military uniform on, loaded with all these stripes and all, and I arranged for an interview at Howard University. And I think Lawson was the head of the music department, and he sat down with me and told me, that I could come to Howard for my master's, but I'd have to take all these undergraduate classes, And I said, wow, I don't know why I would have to do all that, because I had all my credentials from Fisk, University. I got in my car, drove over to Catholic University just to inquire. And I went to the music department, and I told the girl that I wanted an application to enroll for a master's degree program. I'll never forget the head of the music department. This was in summertime. The head of the music department happened to come in while I was just talking to the girl, and she told him who I was. He introduced himself to me, and I introduced myself to him. He said, this was like around 1 o'clock in the evening, in the daytime. He said, you got time? He said, I'm on the way to lunch. He said, you want to have lunch with me? I said, yeah. So here, me and the head of the music department going to lunch together. I never met. And he took me over to the cafeterias at Catholic University. We sat down and talked. I told him about a lot of my experiences and all, and my experience with the Air Force Band and all. And when I came back, he gave me all the papers to fill out, and they accepted me right then as a master's degree.
Wow!
And I'll never forget him.
Yeah.
So I it was tough then because I was teaching at Kelly Miller Junior High School and band director at Kelly Miller, and
And getting your master's?
and getting my master's at the same time. you
Wow.
know. Yeah. So I would go. I took mostly evening classes and classes all day on Saturdays.
Okay. Wow.
But I was able to get my master's in 2 years because summertime I would go full time.
Yeah.
The 2 summers. Yeah.
I read that that after the military, you had 3 different musical careers. You was a public school director,
Right.
college professor at the University UDC, right?
Right.
And you was a performer. So you had 3 distinct careers.
Right.
So I'm gonna add a 4th one. You also a band leader.
Yeah. Right.
So let's talk about you as an educator. Now,
Well, that's my whole life.
Yeah.
Well, half of my life, other than playing.
just overall, like, so you started high school.
Yeah. Well, what happened? Let me tell you an experience that happened to me real good.
Okay.
With the group in Air Force, I put together like an 7-8 piece, I think, dance band. And every time we would go somewhere to perform, I would contact the NCO club and the officers club, and they would book me, so we were able to make money. So at night, everywhere I went, I would play at the officers club.
Wow.
So during that time, there's a Kenley Air Force base is in Bermuda. In Bermuda, and I had never been to Bermuda, but the Air Force band our group used to go to Bermuda every 3 months because Bermuda did not have a field band. There was not a field band at Kenley Air Force Base, so we would fly over to do the base parades and all that stuff.
Okay.
The parade and review or they would have. But every 3 to 6 months, so while I was in the Air Force, I went to Bermuda about 6 times.
Wow.
And every time I went to Bermuda, they would book me in the officers club to play, at night.
And
our little dance group.
And you make extra money
Yeah,
on top of the
yeah. And our dance group.
That's called double dipping.
So yeah, right. So because of that, when I was discharged, the people in Bermuda contacted me, and I went to Bermuda. I spent 3 months in Bermuda as a civilian when I got out of the Air Force. And was I got out of the Air Force January 1st, and I wasn't going to start at Catholic University until the summertime. So I had all that time from January to June. So I took a jazz group. We were strictly jazz then. I took a jazz group to Bermuda at the officers club for 3 months.
Wow.
We rented 2 houses. That was a beautiful experience.
Yeah.
We rented 2 houses in Bermuda, and we played 6 nights a week. And you know who went to Bermuda with me?
Who?
Shirley Horn.
Wow.
That's how I got to know Shirley.
Wow.
Shirley was with me for 3 months in Bermuda.
Wow.
And Shirley. Well. At that time, I had trombone, tenor sax. The piano player played vibes too, and drums and bass.
Okay.
And the piano player would do the first set. Then when we bring Shirley on, he would play vibes.
Okay.
So we had a piano at all times.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. So that was a good experience, and I was there for 3 months. And when I came back is when I went on to summer school at Catholic University.
Wow. Now, were you also in the Negro Leagues?
My brother.
Your brother was in the Negro Leagues?
My brother was with the Newark Eagles.
Wow.
Yeah, in the Negro Leagues. Yeah, Billy Felder. He was a second baseman.
Okay.
Yeah, and he was really good too. I was just thinking if he was long doing times now as well as he played back then, because there were some good players in those Negro Leagues. Yeah.
But you weren't in the.
No, I was never in the sports. No. I love sports, but I never was too much. I play golf a little bit now.
Gotcha.
That's my only sport that am involved in.
So what has your experience been like as an educator?
Well, in some form of education all my life. As I said, when I finished college, I went back to Tampa and I was band director at Booker T. Washington Junior High School. And then when I got out of the Air Force, I applied for a band director job, and they hired me as band director at Kelly Miller Junior High School.
Were you teaching the marching band or just concert
Yeah,
band?
I had marching and concert band.
Okay.
Yeah.
So how were the kids back then?
Very great.
They listen?
Oh yeah.
It was not like today.
I went through, when I was in junior high school, I had a very, very, Muriel Alexander was a very harsh principal. She was stern. I mean, she put the hammer down in a minute. And a lot of people really feared her, but she kind of fell in love with me because when I went to Kelly Miller, they had a marching band there, but it was a drum and bugle corps, and they had just bought brand new uniforms, beautiful maroon and white uniforms, and she told me she wanted me to start a marching band, really, and of course we had the concert band too, and that's when I really got into it heavy. I was there for 10 years, and as part of the marching band, she would let me, she was very lenient with me. She would let me, I could take students out of almost any class I wanted to take.
Wow.
To take band classes.
Wow.
Because she was so proud of, because the band, the whole neighborhood was
you made the school look good.
Oh yeah. And see what we would do every day doing she arranged all the lunch periods for the kids together, and the marching band at Kelly Miller Junior High School at 12 o'clock we would line up outside. I had about a 75-piece marching band.
Wow.
And we would march all through the neighborhood.
Wow.
And we would march past these other elementary schools and all, and the kids would come to the windows and all, and so the police cooperated, because the police would make cars move over when the band was coming down the street.
Yeah, that's cool.
Did
the girls have those little white shoes?
Oh yeah. And I think if you look at Kelly Miller now in the trophy office, every year our big event was to play the AAA parade, which was on Constitution Avenue. They had the marching band, marching parade, and that's when bands from all over the country. And no band had ever won anything from the district in that parade until we won. I was in the parade maybe 4 times, and I won second place once, and we won first place once. Yeah, because. See, I was smart. The officers that mark you before the reviewing stand, when you pass by where all the people who grade you are, they were all military people. And see, you
had your military.
And all other bands would go by past them dancing.
Yeah.
And when I went by, I was strictly military. Strictly military.
Wow.
And
you wrote probably some hip arrangements.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
So after that, how'd you get to UDC? And I think was that Federal City College?
Yeah, well, what happened? I was at Kelly Miller, and I had formed such a bond with the principal there that I would have stayed there. But what happened? The principal, there was an opening, band director opening at Roosevelt High School, and they wanted me to come there because I knew the principal at Roosevelt, and I knew a lot of the faculty members there, and all of them called me in, and they called me. Ms. Alexander called me. She said, "Felder, she said it's time for you to move up." She said, I'm going to miss you, but go ahead. So I went to
Your
Roosevelt.
principal said that?
Yeah.
Wow.
She said, I want to see you move up. So I went to Roosevelt High School for 1 year. And I'll never forget, I'm not going to call his name, but the director they had before me was a violin player. And they didn't have much there, really. And my first performance at my concert band performance was Military Day. They had it at the school, and they had all these military people come in, and they told me, asked me if I could do. They had the band pitched down there, with the whole concert band could sit down front, and they wanted me to do Star Spangled Banner to open the program up.
Okay.
So I say, look, I'm going to do it right. Back then, we had the cadets and all, you know, all the high schools had cadets. And I put together a color guard with four different flags. I think American district flag and school flag, and I worked on it, and I worked that Star Spangled Banner out.
Wow.
And the band loved it, you know.
Wow.
So when the auditorium packed with people, so everything was on me to start it. I had the color guard to stand in the back of the auditorium, drum roll.
Yeah. Wow.
And forward march, you know. And boy, and I had them stepping and stepping.
Yeah.
They came down. Present arms, you know, and all the flags except the American flag went down. I did the Star Spangled Banner. That's the first time the Star Spangled Banner got a standing ovation.
Wow. They got a standing ovation
for the Star Spangled Banner.
Wow.
And people stood up because the Roosevelt had never heard anything like that, you know, before.
Yeah. Wow.
And so I at Roosevelt, the kids. I would go early in the morning and stay late in the afternoon. Yeah. And what happened? I put together a string ensemble, and I put together a small woodwind ensemble, a band ensemble.
Okay.
About 12 pieces. I took the best players from the concert band. And what happened? There was this lady who. She's a very good friend of mine. She still is, Hildred Roach. That was the year that she came later, but my close friend was head of Miners Teachers College.
Okay.
Dr. Paul Cook.
Okay.
He was head, and he was a frat brother of mine, and he knew me.
You said frat brother?
Yeah.
With church?
Cap Apple Side.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotta give him some love.
Right. And he from all the dances I used to play, he knew me real well.
Okay.
And the lady who taught general music over at Miners Teachers College, I knew her real well. She had me to come over and do a demonstration of instruments. You know, for her music appreciation classes.
Okay.
And I went over and I demonstrated. We had the kids to play each instrument, and then we did about 5 songs.
Okay.
And Paul Cook heard it. It was so good. The next day, Paul Cook called me and told me, he said, I want to see you. Come over, you know. He said, I want you to come to Miners Teachers College as a faculty member.
Wow. Miners Teachers College?
Yeah, it was Miners Teachers College.
Okay.
But Miners turned in the Federal City, and then Federal City turned into UDC.
Okay, wow.
It was Miners Teachers College then.
Wow.
And Miners had 2 buildings. One building was right across from the performance hall up at Howard University. That was one of the buildings.
Okay.
And the other building was over on Harvard Street. So he gave me an office and everything, and I put together a group, and I augmented the concert band that I had at Miners. I augmented it with friends in the city, who whenever I had a performance,
Yeah.
they
People-
would
the people-
a lot of other teachers that
Yeah,
I knew
gotcha.
really well
Yeah,
would come
gotcha.
sit in,
Yeah.
and help me,
Yeah.
So the first graduation that I was involved in at Miners Teachers College, we did the concert band did the
Wow. Yeah.
the marching in and everything. We da ba ba da da
Yeah.
da.
Yeah.
We
Da,
did
yeah.
all that. Yeah.
What's that? The
We did all of that.
Pomp and Circumstance.
Pomp and Circumstance, right. And so I'm at Miners Teachers College 1 year.
Mm-hmm.
I got this phone call from Hilda. That was the year that Federal City College started.
Okay.
Federal City College started, and they started off with in the music department. They started off with two teachers, Bill Moore and Hildred Roach,
Okay.
were the two first teachers they hired. Hildred's pianist.
Okay.
Bill Moore was also a pianist, but we eventually elected him as head of the department. But Hildred also taught general music.
Okay.
She said, "Bobby, I heard you did instrument demonstration. Will you come over and do one for us?"
Oh, okay.
At FCC then, Federal City College.
Federal. Okay.
I said yes. I took the group, and by that time, the small group was really, really good. And I went over and performed, and the next day, Hilda called me, and she said, "I want you to meet me for lunch at the Hot Shop." Back then, they had that called Hot Shop up on George Avenue. I met her for lunch. She said, "I've submitted your name to join our faculty at Felder City College."
Wow.
And I said, "Wow!" Now I was only at Miners for 1 year, so the head of the arts department, because the music department was not set then, the head of the arts department, Frank Staroba, I never remember. I met with him, Hildred, and Bill Moore, and we negotiated a salary, which was well above what I was making at Miners,
Wow.
So I was the third person hired at Felder City College.
Wow.
Then after I was hired, the next one was Nelda Orman, I think, was the next one hired. But I got there to Felder City College. And that's how I got started on
And
the college level.
you were instrumental music teacher?
I was in charge of all instrumental music.
Okay.
Yeah. And
Wow.
all through that, even at Felder City College, I was in charge.
So did you bring Miss Corey in?
Well, I was one of the ones that interviewed Pearl Williams Jones. I interviewed. I was the two people that I strictly brought in that I was proud of. Was the first one was Art Dawkins.
Yeah, Dr. Dawkins.
I brought Dawkins in.
Yeah.
As a full time. Then he left. Then went back to Howard.
Howard,
He
yeah.
had his department. And then after Dawkins left, I told Bill Moore, who's chairman, I said, I know just the guy to bring in here that we get something going. I said, he's the band director up at Coolidge High School. And I said, he and I are very good friends. I said, Calvin Jones.
Wow. So
I brought Calvin in, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so y'all just happened to end up in D.C.? Like, cause he
just happened to end up in D.C.
Yeah,
but I met him in Nashville.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Y'all just happened to end up in D.C.
Yeah, I met Calvin Jones in Nashville.
Wow, man,
And
that's beautiful.
A fantastic musician, Calvin Jones.
Yeah, dang. Now,
he was a fantastic arranger too.
yeah.
Some of the charts that we were doing now, are some of his charts.
Okay. Yeah. Wow, it's beautiful. And then it eventually became UDC.
Yeah.
Okay. And I remember when I got here in '87. So I remember they had the radio station. WDCU.
WDCU, yeah.
And so you also had a relationship with radio disc jockey and jazz historian, the one and only Mr. Felix Grant.
Yeah.
Were y'all friends?
Very close friends.
Okay.
Felix and I became very, very good friends. and I it was brought up in faculty meeting that about farming. We talked about farming the jazz archives up there. So what I did, I took a 2 year, I took a 1 semester leave of absence to study the jazz archive. And during that time, I was able to go up to Rutgers University for a week, where they had one of the greatest jazz libraries in the country on the East Coast is housed at Rutgers.
So you were studying how to put together
Yeah,
archive?
how to put together, and that was a very good trip. So I went up to Rutgers for a week, and they gave me a fellowship to go up there, and when I came back, I got to work on this, and I contacted Felix and asked him if he would donate his library to UDC.
Wow.
And at that time, he was contemplating giving it to the Library of Congress.
Okay.
Yeah, but for some reason he kind of fell in love with UDC.
Okay.
Felix
Yeah,
did.
yeah.
And he eventually decided to give it to us. His wife June and I became very good friends. They had an apartment over Southwest, right on the waterfront, and he invited me over there, and 2 of the rooms that they had was, as far as you can see, was albums.
Wow.
He had a vast library, a huge library.
Really?
Yeah, and so eventually we were able to get all of his.
Wow.
That was the first music that we really got.
So people are able to go, people are able to go and listen to.
Now they have space now. The Jazz Archive. They renamed it the Calvin Jones because of I started I was the first one to start the jazz the yearly jazz festival.
Okay. Wow. Yeah. Wow.
With University of Maryland,
Yeah,
Howard, and
yeah.
UDC.
You put that together?
Yeah. At first,
Wow,
yeah.
And I was in both bands, by the way.
Yeah, right. and
Howard and UDC.
that became an institution up there. That became a pretty big thing. It was always the first Monday in April.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that became a big thing, and I emceed it all those years
Yeah, I remember.
except 1 year, which I had a big gig that night. I couldn't do it, but we named it the Calvin Jones Jazz Archives, and they're housed over in one of the other buildings now, and
Okay.
people can go there.
Wow.
And they have the earphones and everything you
beautiful.
can listen to. Yeah.
Wow.
And so a lot of other people have donated album CDs and everything. So it's a pretty big library. Yeah.
Man, you're a trailblazer.
Yeah. I don't know.
Let's talk about you as a performer. And we almost to the end. Who are some of the people you perform with? We talked about Keita Betts, Shirley Horn.
Well. I say my signature performances was the 3 years I was with Charlie Bird,
Okay.
and on that with that group. Well, Keita Betts was T. Carson piano, Bertel Knox. All these are great musicians back then.
Yeah, no doubt.
Buck Hill.
Buck Hill, yeah.
Buck Hill. I played trombone, and I did Charlie Bird's first CD, Jazz at the Showboat, Volume 1.
Okay.
Which is still a very popular CD, and I wrote 4 songs,
Wow.
4 originals. I did this on Charlie Bird's first CD.
Wow.
It's called Jazz at the Showboat Volume 1.
Okay.
It could be a lot of people can still buy it on Amazon,
Gotcha.
eBay.
You ever played with Reuben Brown, piano player?
No, I knew Reuben, but I
Yeah.
never played with him. No.
Yeah. Okay. I remember when Reuben was at the. I got to play with him, and key to I did and key to bets.
Right,
It was
right.
yeah, it was just like I'm a little kid in college.
Right. Well, I enjoyed playing with Buck Hill, and I played with Buck. But we were like the showboat for like 3 years. That's when the showboat was up on Connecticut Avenue, and right near Orange Street.
Okay.
And it was packed every night. We would do a set, the first set, without Charlie, just tenor, trombone, and rhythm. And then Charlie would come second. They did 3 sets. Charlie would come on and do the second set alone.
Gotcha.
Classical guitar. And then the last set, we would do jazz with him playing his jazz electric guitar. Yeah.
So y'all did that for 3 years?
Yeah, about 3 years. Yeah. And I was still teaching at Kelly Miller during that time. So I was teaching daytime and then playing at night every night.
You was eating good, huh?
Yeah.
So what is the Blue Notes band?
Well, that's my dance band.
Okay.
That's my baby. I started that way back when I started playing dances. I found out that as a businessman, rather back then, a lot of musicians was playing in clubs, playing 6 nights a week, 5 nights a week.
Gigs,
yeah. And I found out that you can do a dance on Friday and Saturday and make as much money doing that as the other musicians.
Yeah.
So plus I was teaching school daytime, you know, and that was a little rough trying to teach school and play at night too. So I started the dance band, and the dance band, I'll never forget what made my band popular was my first huge gig for the Omegas, the Omega Mardi Gras. They used to have it every year at the Armory, National Guard Armory.
Okay.
5,000 people.
Wow.
And this particular year, they had Count Basie's band was the feature, and they brought me in to play during the breaks for people to dance.
Okay.
People were so glad that there was such a contrast
Wow.
between the big band and people wanting to dance. You know, when I played, the dance floor was just packed. You know, with people. You know,
So you said Count Basie band was playing?
Count Basie did. Yeah, was the
Count Basie?
was the the big band. Count Basie's big band was the feature.
But was Count Basie in that band?
Oh yeah.
Oh, wow.
That's back when Count was
Oh, so because they kept going after he passed. The Count Basie.
No.
Oh, wow.
No, this is a long time ago. So I got a chance to see Count Basie that night and everything.
Wow.
Then I got a chance to play, and from then on, everybody started calling me for cabarets. I played a lot of cabarets. My signature performances was I have plaques on my wall at home. I played 4 different presidential inaugural balls.
Yeah.
Let me see. I'm trying to remember Jimmy Carter. I played Nixon, Obama's I did, and Kennedy. I played 4 inaugural balls. You know, and now Bush, Father Bush, is the one.
Papa Bush.
Yeah.
Okay.
And they had a big article in the paper. I was one of the bands that played at the Mayflower Hotel when Bush was president, the father. And what he did, he went to each ball for a little while, you know. And when he came to where I was, my band was playing, and he danced to and so the next day in the Washington Post they had a big picture of him dancing, and then they mentioned my name and
Oh man, wow.
Yeah.
Man. Okay, now then you have what is Bobby Felder Friends Jazz Ensemble?
Well, that's another route that I took. I still kept the Blue Notes, but then we wanted to form a jazz group, and it was 3 of us got together. It was Jock Johnson. I don't know if you remember Jock.
I know Jack. Yeah.
You real well.
Saxophone.
We met at my house. Me, Jock, and Davy Yarborough met, at my house. I had enough room in the basement. The guy, what they wanted, they wanted to start reading charts again, because playing dances and all. The guys, did a lot of ad-libbing and they didn't get a chance. And so they said, let's put together, I know a lot of school teachers and all who want to just get together and bring arrangements in, the big band charts.
Gotcha.
And so we started, we started off with the big band. And from the big band, the 8-piece group, the one that you played with, evolved from that.
So that's the Capitol All-Stars Big Band?
Yeah, the big that's 16 pieces. Yeah.
Okay.
We had 14 horns.
Wow.
Male and female vocalists.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, man.
Yeah. Big band. Yeah.
And you were the director of jazz services at People's Congregation Church.
Yeah. Well, that's another life that I went into. At that time, back then, I would go to different churches on Sunday, but I was not a member of any church. So what happened when Hildred Roach came into my life again? Reverend Stanley was the minister up at People's Church.
Okay.
He was a jazz enthusiast. Reverend Stanley this year went to a national conference of ministers, congregational ministers in San Francisco.
Gotcha.
And at this conference, the Saturday afternoon, they had a jazz Vesper service where they just opened the doors and people off the street and everybody came in.
Wow.
He said the place was packed.
Wow.
He was so impressed with that jazz worship service in San Francisco. When he came back to Washington, Hildred Roach was a member of People's Congregational Church up on 14th Street. Hildred knew me. He asked Hildred that he would like to start jazz vespers at People's Church.
Wow.
At that time, people was a very strict church. They didn't think about jazz, nothing like that. And Hildred told him to call me.
Wow.
Call me. Hildred called me and said, Reverend Stanley want to meet with you. So Reverend Stanley called me and he set up an appointment. And I'll never forget, he was so friendly. When I went in, he took me into the main sanctuary. We walked all the way down and we set up the first pew. And he told me about his experiences in San Francisco. And he said, I want to start jazz here.
Wow.
Jazz services here at People's Church.
Yeah.
And
I've done this.
I said, but back then people weren't doing no jazz in churches back then.
So that was like a revolutionary kind of thing.
Yeah. No, I said, but Reverend Stanley, how do you think people gonna let you do that? He said, look, I run this church. And he said, I want you to do a jazz vespers once a month. And he said we would do it the last Saturday of each month at 6 o'clock. And so I said, okay. So I'll never forget the first one I did. Calvin did the first one for me.
Calvin Jones?
Yeah,
Wow.
he did first. Yeah. And at that time, the baby grand piano sits down on the floor on the side, not from the pulpit.
Okay.
That's where performance was ordered by the piano. And it was a fair crowd.
Yeah.
And the crowd liked it, and so every month it got bigger and
bigger. Wow.
Bigger and bigger and bigger. Then we moved the jazz vespers to the hall, the fellowship hall, and where they had the piano and everything, and you could put up tables and everything.
Yeah.
So we had food.
Yeah.
And everything, so
Yeah.
it got to be real big. I brought in a lot of groups, Jock, and I could think of Michael Thomas, and all those groups came in,
Yeah.
and played. And so I'll never forget, I was in Florida and Reverend Stanley called me and said, I want to do, we're going to do Christmas Eve Jazz Vespers. And he said, I want to do, and he said, I want to do Christmas Eve and Easter Eve, Saturday before Easter. So that's how that got started. And they still do it now.
Yeah,
they're real big. So jazz became a very big thing. Then we formed the People's Jazz Society, and all. And my first big experience, I credit the church, and Reverend Stanley knows for this. My first big experience in doing CDs was through People's Church, who paid for my CDs.
Wow.
My first
and
CD.
now you've
Jazz,
done 10 CDs altogether?
So he said, I want you to do a jazz CD. Reverend Stanley, he was he was an innovator, you know. He said, I want you to do a jazz CD using church hymns.
Wow.
In a jazz mode.
Yeah.
You know, so I did my first CD, went to the studio, and it was Jazz at People's Church.
Wow.
Was the name of the first jazz CD. And from that, it evolved. I ended up doing the Christmas jazz CD. I did. I got a lot of CDs. I ended up doing 10 CDs. Plus I went into promoting CDs. I promoted right here. I promoted Herb Scott.
Yeah.
I produced
Wonderful alto saxophone.
Yeah. I produced Ellis Jenkins on piano. I produced our organist Clyde Park at the organ. I produced that CD, and our lead soprano, I can't think of her name now. I did a CD for her. Wow. And I did another piano player CD, Earl Blake. So those CDs I produced.
Wow.
You know,
Man.
I put the whole thing together, packaged together for them, you know.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
So we almost headed to the end.
Time passed.
Yeah. But how did you develop the ability to lead?
I don't know.
Your leadership.
Things just, I don't know. I'm lucky. I've always been in the right place at the right time.
Yeah.
And things just happen to fall my way.
But to be in front of, and I've seen you in action because I played in your band, but you in front of a bunch of grown folks, and you have to, with different personalities and different temperaments, and you have to be able to monitor all that and get to go and get what you got to do done.
But it's fun. It's a big thrill. Well, as far as arranging is concerned, it's a big thrill to hear something in your head, put it down on paper, bring a group of musicians together,
hear it
back, and it sounds just like it.
Wow.
Now, one of the greatest things that happened to me as far as arranging is concerned is this computer program. I do everything on computer now.
Yeah.
And when this finale was,
finale.
When it first came out, I was intimidated. The manual was that thick on finale. And I didn't want to have nothing to do with it until my luck again. There was a good friend of mine. His name is Chuck Carthen, who was Air Force, and he was discharged. He plays trombone and Fender bass, real bass player. He is a genius in finale.
Okay.
And a saxophone player friend of mine, Bob Montgomery. I don't know if you knew Bob, alto player.
I didn't know.
I just happened to mention him. I said, I wish that I knew somebody could teach me finale. And he said, I know just the guy. So he introduced me to Chuck Carthen. Chuck came to my house once a week.
Okay.
On my computer. And he was a genius in finale. He started me from scratch.
Wow.
And finale is a program that you can put all the notes in and have it played back.
Yeah.
And it sounds just like just like
what
the
you
horn.
heard in your head.
Yes, yeah. If you want to hear a big band sound,
Yeah.
you can hear a combo sound, and that's what I adjust. So I have at least 500 or 600 charts now that I've done on finale.
Wow.
Yeah. So,
Beautiful.
and then I could print the parts out.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. No doubt.
It wasn't like in old days you had to write it by hand.
Yeah.
And then wait until they play it and then go back and change it.
Yeah.
No, but you can hear it back and you can hear it right back. Yeah.
Okay, we got some final questions. Who are some of the legendary jazz musicians or artists that you've seen or heard live? You mentioned Cannonball and Nat Adderley. Did you like Duke Ellington? You ever see? You also mentioned
Duke, of course.
You seen Duke?
Oh yeah, in person.
Wow. Louis Armstrong?
No, I never saw him in person. Count Basie, Duke.
You ever see Train?
Groups like Horace Silver and those groups. I've seen those groups in person. Art Blakey. Groups in person. And
What about Train?
no, I never. Not in person. Not Coltrane.
Wow.
Yeah.
And also,
But I always admired groups like. I just fell in love with Earth, Wind and Fire.
yeah.
I've seen them 3 times.
Also, you had I can't go by without. I'd be remiss if I didn't mention the great Andrew White.
Oh yeah, I knew Andrew.
You had your relation. You had a great relationship with Andrew.
Yeah. We never played together, but we were good friends.
Yeah.
He would always be glad to see me.
He would come to the jazz, the big band.
Right.
We just recently lost him.
Yeah, right. I know that. I know that. Yeah.
Got to get Andrew some love.
Yeah. He was a great musician, man.
Yeah. So, is there anything else you want to accomplish in life? You've done.
No, I don't know what else. What
about writing a book on your life? Or your life experience?
I don't know. A lot of people say I've done enough things I could do a book, But I never thought about that,
Well, at least we got some of your story here.
Yeah, right.
Oh, yeah, man. I think it's a great idea. That's why I do this. It's called Conversations in Jazz, because a lot of times, particularly in the African American culture, but even in other cultures, they pass the stuff down orally.
Right.
They pass stories down.
Right.
And I always thought that, like when I was into Charlie Parker, not only was I into his music, but I was into his story.
Right.
And so, like, I always felt like I knew Charlie Parker.
Yeah, right.
Even though he died about 15 years before I was born.
Right.
Just through his music and through reading the stories. Mm-hmm. And that's why I think it's important for us to share our stories.
Right, I agree.
So that it's really informative and it helps us to make a connection.
Right.
To the past and today. A lot of young people, they got so much coming at them through the internet, and they don't stop and they need to listen.
Yeah, I agree.
Listen to the elders, ask them some questions.
Right,
they don't ask enough questions.
I agree.
And so that's why I think that we should tell our story. So I'm just trying to encourage you to work on a book on you. I got 2
Sounds
more.
good.
Yeah. 2 more questions. What's next for Bobby Felder?
Well, I guess the fade away and the highlight.
Any more CDs or anything coming up, or working on any concerts? I know we're in a pandemic. Well, we at the end of it.
Well, I've done some virtual things for some churches and organizations and colleges, but everything is virtual now. I'm waiting for everything to open up. Again,
All right. You be ready for it.
I'm tired of being in that house now. Not ready to get out. Yeah.
Last question. And how can people contact you or learn more about you? I mean, are you on Facebook? You on Facebook?
Yeah. Well, you can contact. Should I get my phone number? I can get.
That's how you get your gigs. You can look at them. You can look and tell them how to.
Well, just call 202-291-8844.
Okay. Cool. Yeah. Well, Mr. Felder,
Man, it's a pleasure, man.
Yeah, man, it's honor.
I'm glad you're doing this, you know.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Man. I really, I'm glad to.
So if anybody wanted to see this, they just bring it up on Facebook, eh?
Yeah, the YouTube. It's going to be. I have a channel called Conversations in Jazz. And so, they can go and a bunch of videos or interviews that I've done.
Right.
You can find me right there.
Right. Okay. Well, I'll check it out then.
We definitely honored to have
I
you.
hope it was okay.
Oh, wonderful, very informative, enlightening, and I'm sure the people are gonna love it.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you so much.
Thank
so
you.
much. Thank
All
you.
right.
Thanks for having me.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
All right. Well, there it is, the one and only Mr. Bobby Felder. This is a conversation in jazz, and we'll see you on the next one.